Hello, and welcome to Bada Boom. On today's episode, we welcome back Josh Trujillo and talk about his work on Blue Beetle Graduation Day. We also talk about our excitement for the new Blue Beetle movie coming out this fall. Listen in to hear more.
Hey Josh, how you been?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited to have you back on this week. Well, it almost feels like the past, few weeks has been Blue Beetle weeks because we just got the release of the last issue of Blue Beetle Graduation Day. We got the trailer for Blue Beetle. So there's a lot of Jaime news, and you got something special that DC and you announced, which is the ongoing series that's going to come out in September, I think,
Yeah,
or August.
September.
Sweet. That's really exciting. But what's it been like? I know you were really excited when the series was first coming out, but now that you have all these things to share, what's it been like? What's the ride been like?
Oh gosh, it's been so cool. It helps that the book's been well received, but I think a lot of us Jaime fans have been kind of like hungry for some new Jaime stuff. And it's
Mhm.
like this year is like a buffet, right? Because we've got graduation day, we've got the ongoing coming out in September, and then of course we have the big movie coming out in August. So it's been really cool to be like in a small way, like a part of this, because the character means so much to me. I've been reading him since issue one.
That's awesome just because, I feel like he's one of those characters that obviously fans love, but he's never really had like sort of that full kind of that push where you see other characters have like they've appeared in games, they've obviously appeared in some animated series. I love their portrayal in Batman Brave and the Bold. But it's been
Mhm.
great to kind of see this, especially with, I think the series was great. It was great for them to revive your round robin series, but the fact that they are able to invest and be like, you know what, we're going to give an ongoing series, which I feel like this character deserves. And I think sometimes with these characters, they don't get that kind of investment. They may get like they'll speak to it, but like it's great to see not only the trailer at the end, seeing your book kind of at the end, which
Yeah.
is awesome, but some classic Blue Beetle stories just because I think as much as we general audiences know these are comic books, a lot of times they show up to our comic shop, they're like, where do I start? So to see that
Mhm.
was awesome.
No, it was a shock to me that they were promoting the book in the trailer. Because that doesn't happen. I think it may have happened with Shazam, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But like just the idea that they would do it for Blue Beetle is like such a sign of confidence, like not just in like the character, but also like our little book.
Yeah.
And that's like it's really cool to be, especially to be side by side with the John Rogers, Colleen Hamner, Raphael Albuquerque, et cetera, run. Because that run was really special to me when I was like in my teens and early 20s.
And in terms of like that series, I know there's a lot of things you guys did in terms of making this story your own. There's a lot of new characters, there's a new city and all those things. But now that you have much more space to tell a story, are there elements of those older runs that you feel like you're going to incorporate in? Like we know we have Peacemaker in that run. We have a bunch of characters that we quite haven't seen. There's also references in Graduation Day to Ted's superhero crush, which we don't see in this the Graduation Day, but I'm sure down the line we'll get some booster gold.
Yeah, when there's Ted, Booster's never far from there, so we'll definitely see him. I'm certain. Um, Peacemaker's an interesting one. He's really tied up in a lot of this Dawn of DC's larger
Yeah.
story they're telling. So I'm going to give him a minute to breathe, but I want to see what Jaime reacts to seeing Peacemaker back from the dead, uh, and just kind of figure out all that stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of old characters from the Ted Cord run that I'm interested in bringing back. We're going to be seeing a villain who we probably haven't seen in like 20 years um, in Palmyra City. And then I'm looking into Dan Garrett, the original Blue Beetle. I'm looking at some of the characters from his run and some of the villains in particular.
And with Graduation Day, obviously it was kind of put together for that round robin. And there's elements of it you could kind of see that were reworked. What was it like kind of crafting that story, the 6 issue series, and kind of making it, our complete story, but obviously at the end there's a huge tag and something that's kind of going to be picked up in the ongoing series. But what was that like? Did you guys have that tag kind of always in mind, or was it something where it's like, hey, if we get to do one more?
It's definitely more the latter. Like the fact that we got to do an epilogue is so cool to me.
Mm,
But I wrote an alternate page in
mm,
just in case we didn't know if we were going to do more or not. Because like we had some idea that we were maybe going to get a second miniseries, but we didn't know
mm.
it was going to be ongoing. So we have the first arc is kind of already planned out, and some of it's already we're writing and drawing it right now. But like it's incredible to go from the doing the round robin, losing the round robin, getting the book picked up as a miniseries, getting the book picked up as a second miniseries, then finding out it's ongoing. Like it's just like it's complete. It's insane, but it's really cool. I'm excited about what we tease in the epilogue. There's a lot of characters and ideas that I want to play around with, and like I think fans who like got into comics or were big into comics around when Jaime debuted, that kind of Infinite Crisis era, like I think they're going to be really pleased with some of the stuff we're doing.
That's awesome. What I love about the story is that it's really like a true graduation day, where you see Jaime kind of evolve from that kind of teen hero into someone that's taking ownership of who they are and where they want to be. Obviously, taking in sort of the horizon and kind of being like, hey, I feel like they should be in my city. It's a big choice because throughout the whole series, hanging over him is the Justice League. Like, hey, we're grounding you. You can't do anything. You're not really in control. And I found it really great to kind of see him at the end kind of take control and have more agency in terms of like who he is as a hero.
Yeah, there was I wanted to take Jaime kind of through the whole heroic journey because we haven't like visited Jaime in a solo book in quite a while. And I wanted to take him a little bit out of his element, taking him to the new city. Palmera City is part of that, but also like getting him out of high school. I think that a lot of young people, myself included, when they kind of graduate, they don't necessarily have a plan or a clear path that they want to do, right? You have so many opportunities, maybe, or maybe you don't, and you don't know what direction to take. And so Jaime has all this power, but that doesn't necessarily mean he knows what's best for his future. And so, like, I think coming to Palmera, reconnecting with his extended family, making new friends, I think that's kind of that's been such a joy to write and to kind of set up what the next phase of Jaime's like heroism is going to look like in protecting the horizon and being kind of like a guardian of them, and also exploring kind of the weirdness and the wackiness of the DC universe like he always is.
Yeah. And sort of also creating those new characters. I think what's great about the series too, in 6 issues, you introduce sort of like some real key figures in the world of Jaime, but also some key figures in, the world of Blue Beetle. Now we learned that, Ted has a sister that obviously has their own ideas about how they go about things. They're very
Yeah, for sure.
secretive. But from what we see in the series, like there is times where I'm like, I don't know where she stands. I don't know if she's gonna be the bad guy in this. And then that kind of turns. But you also have, the two other Beetles, the Gold Beetle, and
Yeah,
those
we have.
characters.
Oh,
Yeah,
go
sorry.
on. No,
No,
we got Dynastus and Atita, our your gold or yellow beetle, and our green beetle, and we've got Jaime's new Tias, who we
mm.
haven't seen before. We've got Victoria Cord. There's a joke my editor will say sometimes where it's like, Josh, you're writing a solo book, right? And I'm like, what? And there's like because you look on the last page of Graduation Day, there's like 11 characters on it or
Yeah.
something.
Starfire, the old Tea Ties, the Justice League. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
it's a big book, but I think again, kind of kudos to you guys because you were able to kind of make the story still feel very personal. I think with Jaime, he's always had a big extended family, so it's always been a family book in a lot of ways, even though it's just Blue Beetle.
Yeah, I think that's always been a big part of him. He has the best supporting cast in comics, and I was a little nervous to pull him away from his direct family, his mom and his dad, and then of course Milagro. But I think it's that time of his life where he needs to take a step back, and not to say we won't see them again. We definitely will. It's just like it's the young adulthood,
Yeah.
and what does that mean when he's independent for the first time?
Yeah, and sort of kind of going back to Victoria, like when you were creating that character, what was that like? Because I think it's not easy kind of creating a character that obviously has been in the history has kind of been around because that's Ted's sister. But kind of was it there a lot of pressure in terms of creating that? Because I think sometimes when you always come out with those like, hey, they've had a sibling you've never heard of and stuff like that, it could come off weird, but I think you guys managed to kind of make her feel new and kind of feel a part of the story, which was cool.
Yeah, I wanted to, Victoria adds kind of like a wild card element to it because she is a Cord. So she has that Blue Beetle legacy kind of within her as well. But the way that she approaches things is so different than what Ted does. She's very cynical. She's just as smart as he is, but she has, like you said, her own way of doing things. And so I love writing Victoria. She cracks me up all the time. And like I like that she kind of inhabits this morally gray area. She's motivated by helping humanity, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she's a big fan of aliens. And unfortunately, she's in a book filled with aliens.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting too. It's almost like, I think at the end she kind of turns around and stuff, but you're like, I feel like if she had the opportunity, she would just destroy everything. But we get to the end and she's like, oh, yeah, I guess you guys are okay.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what she really thinks about all that, but
Yeah,
she's got a plan.
I think that was really interesting. Again, I really can't say enough about the book because it's 6 issues, but there's so much Blue Beetle like lore added to it. Obviously, homage to what's come before. Obviously, with the new movie coming out, like, was there? And we might have talked about this before, but now that the trailer is out, do you feel more pressure to kind of carry on that legacy and that torch of Jaime? Because right now, you are the writer of Jaime. You
I know
have
it's
the
a lot of
series.
pressure because the character means a lot to me, and I'm like keeper of the lore, I guess, right now because I'm introducing all this new stuff. But like you don't own these characters. I think I don't know who said it, but we're kind of like custodians. We're like it's a campsite rule. I want to leave the characters better off than when I found them. And I think with Jaime, we're setting up a potential for all sorts of different stories to be told by all sorts of different writers. Like I'm really hoping that other writers pick up Natita, the Green Beetle, Dynastus, the Yellow Beetle, maybe a Victoria Cord story or something. But like, I think that it's really important to have new places, new enemies, new friends, and kind of everything in between. I didn't want to do a retread because the perfect Blue Beetle comics may have already been written by John Rogers.
Yeah.
But this is the next step of that.
Yeah, that's fun. And with the ongoing, like how far along are you on that journey? I know obviously you have that tag at the end, but in terms of writing it, in terms of like scoping out that first arc of the ongoing, like how far along are you guys with that story?
I guess I can say this. But we thought we were just going to be a mini series until the weekend last weekend. So the weekend before the announcement.
Yeah.
So we're pretty far into the first arc, and I didn't necessarily know if I had to close up everything by the end because I was like, maybe we get a third mini, who knows? Yeah. But then they're like, you're ongoing, and I was like, I guess I better come up with a plan for the next few issues after that.
Yeah.
Knock on wood. But it's really exciting. Adrian is killing it on his pages. I'm sure you saw the cover, the Blue Beetle #1. And it's gorgeous. And like he's managed to fit all the cast into it, including a new character who we see a little bit of at the end of issue 6, but we're going to see a lot more of her at the beginning of our new Scarab War arc.
Yeah. And what was it like working with Adrian? Because I love the designs of all the newer characters, kind of the takes on some classic characters. I especially love the smiles of the characters in it. I think it gives the book a lightheartedness, even in some of those moments. One of my favorite moments in the book is when Ted and Batman are sort of in Ted's space, and he's like, "You could do your disappearing thing now," and he kind of turns around and waits for Batman to kind of leave. I think it's just kind of cool and kind of has that lightheartedness. And I think your writing with Adrian's art kind of really complement each other, especially for this character.
Yeah, thank you. Adrian's incredible. He's based out of Spain. He and I were paired on the round robin competition, and our editor, Andrew Marino, never really gave up on the team, which that means a lot. It's a big movie coming out, and they could have picked anyone else to write Blue Beetle. And it's really an honor that they would think to include me. And of course, Adrian's like a slam dunk. He's so expressive. He has such a kinetic style. And I wanted to give him as much to draw as humanly possible. I think issue 5 has like 20 characters in it or something. Because I was like, I want you to draw the Flash. Like you're born to draw the Flash. So that's been great. And then the whole team is amazing. Will Quintana, our colorist, like makes all that armor shine. And really, they look like they just came out of the dealership. And
Yeah.
then we have Lucas Catoni, who's our superstar letterer. I don't think letterers get enough credit, and Lucas definitely doesn't. He's the only one in comics lettering in English and in Spanish at the same time. So, but he also does like these fun sound. These are so great. The sound effects or like ways to twist the word, different fonts to use. It's just as expressive as Adrian's art. So it all feels like it's kind of coming from the same place. And Adrian's my Blue Beetle brother, whether he wants to be or not. We're now bonded around this character.
Yeah, that's awesome. And for the ongoing, something we talked about the last time, will we see Bunker? Have you talked to DC about getting Bunker into the series or getting your own Bunker?
Given enough time, Blue Beetle and Bunker are going to become best friends. I will say that this is news, I suppose. There may be something Bunker related happening this year, so keep an eye out for that.
All right.
Will
As you be involved?
Yes, I can say that. I can say with confidence that I may have a Bunker thing going on this year, and hopefully it's one of many, because as we all know, I'm obsessed with this character. His brick Fortnite powers, I call them.
That's awesome. I feel like if you could get Batman into Blue Beetle, if DC gave you the okay, I feel like they could be like, you know what, Bunker's been on the shelf long enough. Here you go.
He's another character that's just kind of been sitting in the background for a little bit, and it's like it's time to let's dust him off and see what he can really do. I mean, like I'm gay, I'm Latino, I want to write a gay Latino.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's great to kind of hear that, eventually, the Bunker fans that have been waiting for a long time can finally get something.
Yeah, Bunker Nation, rise up.
And for you, like what else do you have going on? Do you have any creator-owned projects you're working on or other things in media that you're working on that you're really excited about?
Yeah, I have a big Marvel project that will debut on my birthday, weirdly enough, on May 11th. I can't even announce what it is yet. It's Marvel hasn't announced it, which is weird, but it's with a favorite character of mine, and it's a huge thrill to be able to write for them again. Beyond that, I have a nonfiction queer history graphic novel coming out in August with Levi Hastings. It's called Washington's Gay General. It's American Revolutionary War history. It's all true. George Washington had a gay general that was serving under him, and we kind of explore what does it mean to put that label onto someone who lived 200 years ago and their kind of very flamboyant life and how they impacted history. And so it's a really interesting, true story about this guy, Baron von Steuben. And we've been working on it for 3.5, 4 years. So that's the big thing. August is going to be crazy. The Blue Beetle movie comes out. The Blue Beetle Graduation Day collection comes out. And then my Washington's Gay General book come out. So it's a busy summer. And I'll have a story in DC Pride as well this year featuring Apollo, Midnighter, and Alan Scott. So it's a weird team up, but I think it works.
That's awesome. I guess you got all the movie characters at this point. The authorities coming out. You have Blue Beetle.
Just got my little punch card, I'm sure. No, I'm excited. It was really exciting to write Apollo and Midnighter because I've written Hulkling and Wiccan at Marvel, and they're also gay married couple, but they're a little softer. They're a little younger. They have maybe a little less grit to them.
Yeah.
And Apollo and Midnight are just the other way, right? They if you read the old Authority comics, they're just cutting people throat and throwing them off buildings and nuking them with their heat vision and all that stuff. And so it's how do I write those guys? But there's a lot of anger, I think, in the real world these days, and a lot of what do we do to kind of fight back and protect ourselves? And Apollo and Midnight are kind of struggle with that question as well. So I feel like we got a good angle on them. I'm really hoping for the chance to do more with them. But there's a movie coming out in a few years, so maybe.
I mean, maybe they've
Apollo
got you.
Midnight or Graduation Day.
Yeah, you got to make yourself the movie guy. So every time a movie
that's a good place to be.
That's a good place to be. But that's awesome. Kind of going back to the Marvel thing, is it something like the Marvel Unlimited, or is it going to be
it'll be a Marvel Unlimited title. It'll be 6 parts. It starts on Thursday, May 11th, and I could not be happier. It's so funny they don't advertise these things in advance, but I guess it's on an app, right? So you'll just be surprised when you open your screen that day.
Yeah, I do like their because it definitely, I think they're trying to catch that webtoon vibe, especially how they read and stuff like that. So I do like that, but there are some pretty big characters they use, so I feel like they should advertise it more, especially in the
They've done
case of
some
something.
really nice
Yeah.
ones lately. The Avengers ones they're doing, David Proposed is doing a great one with the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Avengers. Chung Lin Nguyen did an amazing one about Karma from the X-Men. And only through like these unlimited comics can you really focus on characters like Karma, who maybe
Yeah.
never will get like their own solo book, but like have a built-in fandom too.
Yeah,
I'm always praying for that DC original unlimited so I can do my Bunker Maxi series.
I think eventually, like you said, they have to figure out to make Bunker like a skin in Fortnite or something. I think
Oh yeah, if we
begin
we got Dreamer, maybe we can get Bunker.
yeah, because if you could get Dreamer in there, especially with Bunker's powers, I think people would love the purple. You get purple bricks when you're building and stuff like that. I think that's the way to kind of get that character to really explode and get them, that ongoing series, that
Yeah,
maxi.
well, like Jaime, that character, he was in the comics, but he was also on he was on Smallville, he was in Brave and the Bold, he's in Young Justice, he's in Injustice, the video
Yeah.
game, and like a lot of people know that character just through that stuff. And so, these multimedia characters, like that makes a big difference. That's what people remember sometimes.
No, that's important. That's how I was introduced to Jon Stewart, Hawkgirl, Martian Manhunter.
Mhm.
Like Justice League was so important to me to be, especially Unlimited, introducing those like secondary characters that may have not been the subject of their own animated series, like a Batman. Like that's where I was introduced to Etrigan. Like all these
Yeah,
characters that
Etrigan's so
I
cool.
feel like I stand and all that is from those like experiences. And as you're a kid and stuff like that, you kind of remember that stuff because sadly it's hard to get to a comic shop. Okay,
Yeah,
not
it can be
everyone
tricky
has
for some areas for sure.
and it's and especially when you go into a bookstore, it's not the easiest thing to kind of find something you can try. It's not as easy as I find with like manga. Like when I take my son out to kind of like
Mhm.
once a week, we'll go to this spot in Midtown and I'll try out a new manga because it's very easy. I'm like, well, there's volume one. This cover looks really nice. It's
Yeah.
$10. The whole story's there. And when I go to the comic shop, I'm usually kind of going for characters I already know because I'm like, well, this is the third issue. I don't know if they have one and two and stuff like that. So I think it's always hard. And I think those multimedia projects sometimes are easier to kind of throw them in because it's easy to reinvent some of them.
Oh, for sure. And I play Marvel Snap kind of religiously. It's like
Yeah.
a card game on your
Yeah.
phone. And that's a way that I've developed feelings for and against to certain characters because of their cards. Like Wong is a character I used to love, but now Wong is so
Oh, I hate
overpowered in the
Wong.
game. I hate Wong now. Like, sorry, Wong. No, thank you.
You know who I hate? Shuri. Shuri is the
Oh,
character I love.
They just nerfed Shuri, so she's not as bad anymore, but it's
Yeah.
still tough.
It's still pretty bad. Someone got me with a Shuri, and it was pretty interesting. I forget the location, but it moved the locations. It switched
Mhm.
them around. So even though I had locked down that location, her reveal still worked on the other location. So she played a She-Hulk on that one.
Oh
And it
my
was
God.
18, and then they played a She-Hulk and a Taskmaster. And I was like,
Ah.
I was so upset. I was like, there's no way you could defend against that.
That's
So
so
yes,
frustrating.
I know. But that game, like you said, there's characters like Hazmat or Yellow Jacket, that you see people kind
Oh
of play
yeah, I
around
used
with.
to love Hazmat, and now I'm like, you're my enemy. We cannot be friends anymore. But also weird characters like Debris, who is like a
Yeah.
New York Warriors character that has like maybe 3 appearances. Like I love Debris. I love throwing rocks in other people's yards. Like that's fun for me.
That's why I always keep a Killmonger on deck. But there's yeah, I love that stuff, and it does it really well for those characters, especially if you have those apps. It's easy to kind of jump in and be like, hey, like let me search up some stories or find that character, those 3 appearances.
Yeah, I think they had announced that they're doing their own kind of digital card game. But I don't know the title or when it's coming out. It looks a little more complicated than Marvel Snap, which I think for like the diehards, that's going to be really interesting.
Yeah.
Because Marvel Snap's like it has some depth to it, but it's also
Yeah.
like a very simple and quick card game.
No, it's very super for me that grew up playing like Yu-Gi-Oh! It kind of
Mhm.
it plays to what I like. I never was really into Magic the Gathering. Pokemon, the card game, was too complicated. I never got the energy thing. So I love Snap, where it's like, hey, this is like I can wrap my head around it. I know the reveals. I have to worry about two or three things at a time. There's 6 turns. Once it gets a little bit more complicated, my brain, it just can't handle it.
No, that's fair. At this old age, I'm happy to just have 3 lanes and six rounds done.
Exactly. Hey, I could get a game in while I'm waiting for something, easy in and out. I can't take that high intensity stuff because that's what makes my blood pressure go up. But thank you, Josh. It's been awesome to catch up. Congrats on all the success around Blue Beetle. Really excited for all the projects you have. It sounds like you're having a second birthday in August because you have all these things.
No, it really does. I cannot believe it. It's going to be a fun month.
No, I hope you get invited to the premiere of Blue Beetle. Hopefully, fingers crossed. And we get to see hopefully more of the stuff in graduation find its way into the movie, and hopefully we get years of Blue Beetle projects where we don't have to be starved as much as we've been for the last couple
Yeah,
years.
definitely. And like, I hate to hit that sign again, but you guys got to pre-order these trade collections. You got to go to your bookstores and just comic shops and just let them know that you want Blue Beetle stuff, because they don't know necessarily, especially the Spanish language version. We didn't talk about that, but the book's published in English and in Spanish, and a lot of shops don't carry the Spanish version because they don't think anyone wants it. And like that's the shops that actually carry it. They sell out every week.
No, it's so true. And I think something that speaks to that is kind of what's happened this week. DC has announced a bunch of extensions or ongoing series for things that you wouldn't think. Like we got a Power Girl ongoing. Green Arrow just got extended from 6 to 12 issues. I'm sure that has a lot to do with pre-orders. Your series, like I'm sure, yes, the movie has to do it, but I'm sure everyone's been reading it. And sadly, we don't get like as clear numbers of how these things are doing. But the clearest thing we can see is, hey, they're doing more of this. They're reinvesting into the same creative teams to do more. So that usually means, hey, this is working. Let's continue it. So
yeah, all the Dawn of DC books look great. I'm really excited about Cyborg in particular, and I think that's going to be a really memorable run for the character. Because I use Cyborg a little bit in Graduation Day, but like I'm excited to see someone like get 6 issues to play, like explore what Vic's all about.
No, and I'm excited for Cyborg to have fingers again. I have been hating the sort of design before the Cyborg series, where he's just all like, that's not a cyborg, that's a robot. But whatever. I'm excited as well. Dawn of DC has been great, and obviously your series is a part of that. And please pre-order, because that's really important, especially when it comes to books. I hope they come out with a hardcover of this, because I'm a hardcover guy. And
I know. Well, my dream is to have all my Blue Beetle run in like this thick little omnibus.
Yeah. Let's get to 20 to 30 issues so that we can get you your omnibus.
Yeah, the John Rogers run is 36. So if I'm telling myself that I got to 12, and that's like incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. That again, these days, 12 is the new 36.
It's so true.
Sadly. But again, thank you. It's been amazing. Hopefully we get to do this again, and in August. It'd be great to kind of catch up and see where Jaime's going. And
yeah, I'll be on the East Coast in August, actually. So perhaps we will do this interview in person.
That would be awesome. I would be more than happy to do it. Let's make it happen. But thank you, Josh. And with that, bada boom. Thank you for listening to the Bada Boom podcast. Keep the conversation going on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Get in the comments on our YouTube channel and let us know what you'd like to hear next. And please subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen.